Jean Jacques Rousseau was a prominent Enlightenment philosopher and writer known for his influential works on politics, education, and the nature of society. Here are his most noteworthy quotes. "Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. I may not be better than other people, but at least I'm different." The first person who, having enclosed a plot of land, took it into his head to say this is mine and found people simple enough to believe him, was the true founder of civil society. The strongest is never strong enough to be always the master unless he transforms strength into right and obedience into duty. Freedom can only be given, it can never be taken away. The person who has lived the most is not the one with the most years, but the one with the richest experiences. To live is not to breathe, it is to act. The world of reality has its limits, the world of imagination is boundless. What wisdom can you find that is greater than kindness? The only way to deal with life is to enjoy it, get the most out of it, and give it back in some way. We are all bound by the social contract to obey the laws, but we are also free to question them and work towards change. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. The less men think, the more they talk. Civilization is a hopeless race to discover remedies for the evils it produces. Virtue is a state of war, and to live in it we have always to combat with ourselves. To endure is the first thing that a child ought to learn, and that which he will have the most need to know. Man is by nature good, and it is society that corrupts him. The more one judges, the less one loves. What is most important for democracy is not that great fortunes should not exist, but that great fortunes should not remain in the same hands. Nature never deceives us, it is always we who deceive ourselves. To renounce liberty is to renounce being a man, to surrender the rights of humanity and even its duties. The greatest gift we can give to others is our own happiness. There is no subjugation so perfect as that which keeps the appearance of freedom, for in that way one captures volition itself. The problem is to find a form of association that defends and protects the person and goods of each associate with all the common force, and by means of which each one, uniting with all, nevertheless obeys only himself and remains as free as before. The wicked are always surprised to find that the good can be clever. I love life too much not to contemplate kicking the bucket, but I'm still too curious about the future not to tolerate the present. Our duty is to be useful, not according to our desires, but according to our powers. The greatest wars happen in our hearts. What we have to do is to be forever curbing and restraining our desires. In order to have real freedom, one must be free from desires. It is too difficult to think nobly when one thinks only of earning a living. Justice belongs to those who practice it, and not to those who only talk about it. Happiness is a good whose nature is essentially religious. The great art of life is sensation, to feel that we exist, even in pain. The person who says it cannot be done should not interrupt the person who is doing it. Liberty is not the power of doing what we like, but the right to do what we ought. We are generally the better persuaded by the reasons we discover ourselves than by those given to us by others. People who know little are usually great talkers, while men who know much say little. It is not the criminal things that are hardest to confess, but the ridiculous and the shameful. To yield to force is an act of necessity, not of will. Man is so muddled, so dependent on the things immediately before his eyes, that every day even the most submissive believer can be seen to risk the torments of the afterlife for the smallest pleasure. Insults are the arguments employed by those who are in the wrong. The true foundation of society is the individual's sense of his dignity. As soon as any man says of the affairs of the state, "What does it matter to me?" the state may be given up for lost. The heart of a mother is a deep abyss at the bottom of which you will always find forgiveness. Everything is good as it comes from the hands of the Creator. Everything degenerates in the hands of man. What can be more foolish than to think that all this rare fabric of heaven and earth could come by chance, when all the skill of art is not able to make an oyster? We are all inclined to judge ourselves,